Hi, I'm Coach Dan Gordon, and welcome to my podcast for badass entrepreneurs only. If you're an entrepreneur who loves hitting it hard, growing your business, and learning from billionaires how to succeed, then you are clearly badass and you are going to love my show. But if you just want to take life slow and easy, you aren't badass, don't even bother listening. For the rest of you, strap in, for Badass Entrepreneurs Only is taking off now. Hi, I'm Coach Dan Gordon, and today I'm speaking with Barry Katz, an icon in the comedy industry. Barry helped launch talents like Kevin Hart, Sarah Silverman, Dave Chappelle, Jim Gaffigan, and many, many others. Barry is an entertainment juggernaut, an Emmy-nominated, Grammy-nominated, Billboard charting executive producing icon who, with his company, BK Production, is changing the face of entertainment as we know it. If you want to know what it takes to crack entertainment or any hard-to-crack industry, you're going to want to listen to what Barry Katz has to say. But before we get there, know this. Right now, in this moment, you have the power to live your life unlimited. For Badass Entrepreneurs Only can show you the way. Today, I promise to open your mind, to set your thinking on fire, to pull back the curtain on your world and show you what you're truly capable of achieving. Come with me and enter a new reality of infinite success. The doors are locked. The stage is set. It's time to get badass. Ready? Let's go. There is an epidemic that many entrepreneurs are suffering from today. This epidemic has been silently halting the growth and achievement of entrepreneurs for decades. You may have never heard of this epidemic, even though you may already be suffering from it. The epidemic is called the I'm gonnas. Here's how it shows up. You're thinking about hiring an assistant. You tell yourself, well, I'm going to do that, just not right now. You're thinking about hiring a business coach. You tell yourself, I'm going to do that soon. You may even be thinking about starting a podcast, and you tell yourself, I'm going to do that when I feel ready. The I'm gonnas are an insidious disease that stops entrepreneurs in their tracks and destroys future success. So how do you beat the I'm gonnas? It's not easy. You have to take action in areas where you might fail. You have to spend money in areas where there's little chance of ROI. And most of all, you have to bust yourself on all the excuses and stories you give yourself that may seem perfectly legitimate, but cause you to give up. You may think, I don't have enough work to hire an assistant. I don't have enough money to hire a business coach. I don't know what I talk about on my podcast. It doesn't matter. The only path to success and the only way to beat the I'm gonnas is to step in the fire of the unknown. This is the same path every successful person throughout history has had to walk. And if you want to be successful, you have to walk it as well. It's the end of the I'm gonnas and the beginning of I take action. And if you'd like some help with this and stepping up to become the greatest version of yourself, I'd like to send you a free copy of my book, Jumping the Gap, Kill Your Story and Take Action. Just text the word GAP to my cell phone, 213-409-8366. Text GAP, G-A-P, to 213-409-8366. This book will help you kill all those stories and excuses that hold you back. Again, text the word GAP to my cell phone, 213-409-8366, and get a free copy of my book, Jumping the Gap, Kill Your Story and Take Action. Well, let me introduce to you Barry Katz. Barry Katz is universally known for representing iconic artists like Louie Anderson, Annie Dick, and Mike Epps. His superhuman ability to spot talent is why he is well known for helping to launch the careers of talents like Kevin Hart, Sarah Silverman, Denis Leary, Dave Chappelle, Louie CK, Whitney Cummings, Wanda Sykes, Jim Gaffigan, Tracy Morgan, and so many others. Throughout his career, he has produced 40 stand-up comedy specials, brokered 100 TV development deals, created 3 original television shows, and executive produced over 50 different specials, including 7 seasons of the Emmy-nominated series Last Comic Standing. Barry's first success was in helping Dave Chappelle sell the cult classic movie Half-Baked to Universal Studios. He went on to produce films with Kate Hudson, Alec Baldwin, Tom Hanks, Amy Schumer, Judd Apatow, and Larry David. Katz invented the idea of using social media to accelerate the comedy career of Dane Cook, where at one point, at the press of a button, he could sell out 2 shows at Madison Square Gardens for a total of 75,000 tickets sold in less than 1 week. It's the kind of thing that has never been witnessed before or since on planet Earth. When it comes to the recording world, Barry has produced Grammy-nominated, multiple gold and platinum albums. He is the only producer to debut a comedy album in Billboard's top 5 national charts twice. He's one of the driving forces behind Comedy Dynamics, the largest independent comedy production company in the world, as well as being involved in the sale of the Comedy Central Roast, which has become one of the longest running, most profitable franchises in the history of television. We are so unbelievably fortunate to have him with us today. So let's not waste another moment. Barry Katz, welcome, welcome, welcome to Badass Entrepreneurs Only.
Just want you to know that I would follow you to the depths of hell. I mean, holy shit. I mean, just to hear you talk, it's like, I'm like, take me to your leader.
I'm touched. Look, coming from you, that is amazingly high praise. And I do want to point out everything I said in that introduction is true, right? I didn't just make it up.
Yeah, but what if I made it up?
I've done some checking, Barry. I do a tremendous amount of research for these shows, and you are legit. So sorry. Look, you have this amazingly wide range of talents. I barely know where to start, but I read something on your website that just set my mind on fire, and that's your mission statement. And would it be okay if I asked a couple of questions about your mission statement? Because there's some badass parts of it I just have to know more about. Would that be okay?
Of course. I spent a lot of time thinking about that a long time ago. And before you go into it, I think one of the hardest things for people going into business, they think of entrepreneurship as I'm starting my own company or I'm starting my own business. But what's lost in that is, as an artist, every artist starts their own business the minute they venture out and have the balls to start showing their talent to the world. You have to perform for an audience, whether you're a magician or a comedian or whatever you do. You can't start your entrepreneurial journey as an artist with yourself. The audience is your writing partner. So while Dan gets all his shit together and comes out with his program and you do his program and you're like, man, Dan, this is airtight. A comedian can't come out on stage for his first performance and say, hey, everybody, this is it. It's rock solid. I've got it all together. When I met with David Copperfield, I mean, the guy's 60 years old or more. He does 680 shows a year. He owns 11 islands, and he's still perfecting every trick in front of the audience. So what's lost in entrepreneurialism is that the artist has to be a different kind of entrepreneur. The artist has to be an entrepreneur in training. And that's what's lost in the entrepreneurial spirit of the artist. If you ask an artist and you were to say, hey, listen, I want you to start your dream to be a pop singer. Okay, yeah, but I don't want to start my dream. Why not? Well, because there's a 1 out of 10,000 shot that I'm even going to get hurt by anybody. Similar to what you said in the beginning of this podcast. And then I always like to say to them, all right, so let's say 10,000 of us were going out to the ocean. We're going to have this great day as this private island. We're going to be swimming. But by the way, one person is going to get killed by a shark. Are you going to come? Well, no, I'm not going to come. Well, why not? Because there's a 1 in 10,000 chance I could get killed by a shark. But you won't come to that but you're thinking there's a 1 in 10,000 shot of you making it the other way. So I'll shut up and let you.
No, I really just like you to take over, because everything that you're saying, Barry, is right on with what my podcast is about. Look, artists and entrepreneurs need to put themselves out there. And, what I tell my clients and what I do myself is, I put stuff out there before I know if it's any good, because that's how I find out if it's any good. And to your point, and I think I'm going to be bold and say, I think you and I are similar in one aspect, in that I want most people to tell me I'm full of crap. I want most people to tell me to F off, because the stuff I put out and my focus is on such high levels of consciousness and such bold action that it scares the hell out of most people. And so back to your mission statement, the thing that really turned me on, and I'm going to read the statement first, okay? So your mission statement says, to work together with extraordinary artists and companies to create unforgettable, holy shit moments in film, television, streaming internet content, and live performance that entertain, inspires, and changes the world. Now, the first question is that part where you say, to create unforgettable, holy shit moments in film, television, and so on. Now, the thing I love about that is that would really turn a lot of people off. And I love that, because it pushes away the people that you don't want to work with and draws in like a magnet the people that you do. So I want to know, what do you define as a holy shit moment in entertainment?
Oh, I love that question, Dan. A holy shit moment. I'll give you an example of some that your audience, in my mind, are holy shit moments.
Yeah.
Talladega Nights. Will Ferrell in the wheelchair for half of the movie, and then he stabs himself in the leg and he stands up. It's like, holy shit moment. The movie Saw, the end of the movie. You're going through the whole movie. You're like, what the hell is happening? And I'm not going to spoil it. And you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I went through the whole movie and that was there in front of me the whole movie. In politics, a holy shit moment would be watching Martin Luther King Jr. saying the I Have a Dream speech. A holy shit moment in sports, it's just like when somebody unexpectedly surprise and delights somebody by scoring something that's unimaginable, that wins a game that it looks like there's like a 99% chance they're going to lose.
And the thing that you just said really punctuates that, when you said a moment that surprises and delights people. And I think that's a great encapsulation of the holy shit moment, because like, whoa, I didn't expect it. And I'm delighted by it.
I think that's the whole thing about success. Success is a series of holy shit moments. You don't experience success by not having moments that surprise and delight people. If you're launching a podcast and you don't engage and enlighten people and give them something that they don't have, you're not getting any listeners. There isn't anybody who walks out of the house and says to themselves, today I want to be ordinary.
I hope not.
You want to be extraordinary. You want to be something really special. And that should be reflected in your work or your business or what you do. I love what I do, and all different facets of helping artists, whether it's management, whether it's producing TV or film or records. It's just an incredible thing to be a part of. And so when I talk to you, Dan, what's fascinating about you, a guy who's like in your face, energetic, it's this, do this, you're going to make this happen, you can do this. And you got those eyes, those like, I got to follow this guy, I got to do whatever. And like you say, there's always going to be people who don't love things about you.
Lots and lots of them, Barry. Lots and lots.
But I can see one of your winning formula. You're like a powerful train that's teetering on the tracks. And you better get on this train because, we're going places, but it's going to be a bumpy ride, but I'm going to take you there. And that's what's so endearing about you. You have this, it's almost like a little bit power, a little bit genius, a little bit crazy, a little bit on the edge, a little bit risky, but God damn it, we're going for this ride.
Thank you. It is what I try my very best at expressing everywhere. I mean, not just in the podcast, but when I meet people in line at the grocery store, on planes and trains, and anything is really possible. It's just if you have the chutzpah, if you have the willingness, if you can stand up and get knocked down and get back up and get knocked down and get back up and get knocked down and turn it into a fucking party. And the other thing I want to say about your mission statement is that you want to make entertainment that entertains, inspires, and changes the world. And in our faith, we have the concept of tikkun olam, which is to heal the world. And so how do you want to change or heal the world or make it better? What is the Barry Katz version of a change and better world?
I'm going to tell you something in your audience that is probably not what you want to hear.
I like it already.
Fate plays an amazing part in how you inspire and how you impact people. And fate takes you in all these different places. There was a guy who created a show called The Illusionist that I used to work with. It was a magic show with 7 magicians, and my uncle was the #1 expert on Houdini in the world. He owned the water torture case.
Wow.
Stuff.
Wow.
And I actually produced the last Houdini documentary for the History Channel. Anyway, this guy who created that show said, I created another show and I have a vision of being the first Cirque du Soleil show to have stand-up comedians in it and to be edgy. And I want you to be the comedy guy for Cirque and the show. I've never done a Cirque show. I've never worked on a Cirque show. I wouldn't even know the first thing of. But this guy came to me, he said, look, I trust you with comedy. And I just said, okay. It took a leap of faith to do something different. Like you stress to people, just get out there. Just put yourself out there. Don't be afraid of the unknown.
Or be afraid, but still do it, right?
Yeah. So I'm sitting there. No one knows that I'm a part of the show. And I hear somebody yell, looks like Cirque has another hit on their hands. The show is over. Standing ovation. And I see these 2 people talking about the show, these 2 guys. I said, what do you think? And the guy was crying. Tears are running down his face. I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt anything. He's like, no, you're not interrupting anything. I'm crying because of the show. He said, I'll tell you why. That comedian that came out to open the show, which happens to be a really tremendous comedian named Brad Williams, who happens to be 4'4". He's the only little person who headlines comedy shows and theaters and has specials. The first thing he said was, we're going to say some things tonight that might be a little bit off. They might be uncensored. And no one's going to get canceled. No one's going to be upset. If you don't like something, you don't like it. If you love it, and it's entertainment. And this is a safe place and a safe stage for all of you. And I said, is there anything else that made you cry? And he said, yes. And this is the most important thing. He said, Brad Williams let me know when the Lady Gaga song came on, I Was Born This Way, right as he was leaving. He let us all know that it was okay to be an other. It was okay to be different. It was okay to be any sexual preference we wanted, any religion, anything. And we were in this space together, and we didn't have to worry about anything except accepting who we were, how we were born, just like he was born a dwarf. And what a wonderful feeling to be in a place like this where we could enjoy a show and feel safe. And those people let me know that what I was doing was impactful and inspiring, and I had a part in that. And that's an exciting thing to know, that you're doing your own entrepreneurial business. You're taking care of your own family by doing it, but you're also helping inspire people in the world. In this case, 1,200 at a time, 10 times a week.
And that's how you're changing the world, by creating these opportunities. And I want to reflect back, like somebody asked you to put together a Cirque du Soleil show, which you had never done before. And so rather than saying, oh, I don't know, I'm not good at that, like you just said yes. And regardless of how it turned out, because it could have failed, but you had the willingness to step into that space. And I think the curiosity to say, I wonder what's going to happen, rather than that storytelling that so many people do where they go, I don't know, it might fail and they'll feel bad. It's very clear that you have stepped into worlds that many people don't, because there's something inside of you that has a willingness to either fail or to treat yourself kindly if things don't work out the way that you want them to. And it is the hallmark of an entrepreneur to develop that ability. There's something that you said that I just have to touch on. When the comedian said that, hey, we're going to say some things that might offend your sensibilities, but it's okay because we're here to have a good time. Like something that a lot of people don't know about me is that I was in comedy 100 million years ago. I was in a comedy troupe. I did stand up. And back then, like the comedy audiences were the edgiest audiences anywhere. Like you could say anything, and comedy audiences knew that they were in for a rough ride and they were willing to take it. And it seems like now the desire to be offended has overwritten the desire to enjoy an experience where your sensibilities get challenged. Do you think that people are looking to be offended, or that people aren't willing to take the responsibility of like, this is how I am? The things that other people say don't change that. Or are we relying on other people saying or not saying things to balance our own self-worth?
Well, first of all, there's a double standard in the world when it comes to being offensive.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Louie CK walks into a dressing room and does his business in front of two people in the dressing room, and he's gone from the entertainment business.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Michael Jackson's private parts can be identified by several different teenage boys, yet his music still plays all over the world, and they're making shows in Vegas about him and in Broadway, and nothing happens to him. Meanwhile, like Kevin Spacey does something inappropriate on a set, gone. One of the greatest actors of our generation, gone. But Dave Chappelle can say something about certain groups or things that are publicly offensive, and nothing happens to him. Why don't things happen to some people and they happen to other people? Follow the fucking money. The people who make the money for people, they don't touch them. Robert Kraft flies his jet down to a massage parlor in Florida. They catch him on camera. Nothing happens. If you have more money and more power, you can be more offensive. If you don't, then you're going to have problems. I remember seeing Jerry Seinfeld doing this interview, and he just slipped one time and he said, honey, listen, this is comedy. And she's like, did you just call me honey? And he said, yeah, I did. And he got away with it because he's Jerry. You know, people get protected and they get to do whatever they want. And if you don't have as much money and power, it's goodbye and good luck. And so comedians are nervous to be a certain way. And that's why in this Mad Apple show was such a great thing to have a safe environment and no one can do anything. And we can just do what we want to do and make it work. And it was just amazing perspective. And the thing I want to tell you before that, one of the things that's really challenging as a parent, if I were to ask every one of your listeners, do you wish that your kids went through life with no pain, no setbacks, no bone-crushing defeats? We would sign up for that every day. But Rita Rudner said something to me on my Industry Standard podcast that I'll never forget. Her daughter had a CD. She's a singer-songwriter. She's 14. And I said, what advice did you give your daughter? And this was incredible, Dan. She said, honey, I can give you anything you want. I can give you a recording studio I can build here. I can buy you musical instruments. I can hire singers to do background. I can hire a music producer. I can do the graphic art for your CD. I can take headshots of you the way you want them. There's only one thing, honey, that I can't give you. And her daughter looked at her and said, what's that, Mom? And she said, adversity. And I'll never forget that, because to have the things that happen in your life and business that make you want to sit in the fetal position forever, because those are the things that help you reset and challenge you to go deep inside yourself and get back up and find new roads. Look, my first wife passed away. She was 23.
Oh,
now,
God.
I say to myself, fate is a strange thing, because you have your whole life ahead of you, and then that happened. And I remember everywhere I went in Boston, people would come up to me, Barry, you okay? I love you. You okay? Is there anything you can do? And it was that positive, negative thing where people are positive for you, but it's too much.
Right.
So one day I just got in my car and I just drove to New York in my car, got off at the 79th Street boat basin exit, went to the first bar with a payphone with the yellow pages, called realtors. I found an apartment, 82 West 82nd Street by the park, and I'm in New York City. And I have no idea what I'm going to do. I don't know I'm going to do what's going to happen. And because of her leaving this earth plane, I have the career I have because I took the risk to go to New York, which I wasn't taking when I was there. And as crazy as it sounds on a personal level about fate, when I look into the eyes of my children, I realize that if she didn't leave and pass away, I wouldn't have the life that I have, that inspires and enlightens me.
And so many others.
And so many others. But she had to leave. She had to leave this world for me to experience that. And that's what I mean for your audience about fate. At some point in time, you get fired from your job and you're carrying out the box with the plant in it. You're like, what the fuck? I can't believe I lost my job after 19 years. Well, guess what? Now you're going to go into a new job that's going to be more inspiring and unique and special. And that's the reason why you lost that job. And so I love hearing the way you talk. I love your ideals. And so why anybody's waiting to put their stuff out there, I have no idea. Because you put yourself out there and nothing happens. And guess what, everybody? You're exactly where you were before you started anyway. So it's like it blows me away about the entrepreneurial spirit and why most people don't just put themselves out there. And because of you, you're helping people see the light. And that's why I'm here. And I'm excited to be across from you.
There's so much of what you shared that I just would love to spend hours and hours unpacking. But the essence of what I heard, Barry, is that, and I'll use your term, the bone-crushing failure, right? And something I realized very early on in my entrepreneurial journey is that it's not about hard work. Anybody can work hard. It's about heartbreak, right? It's about putting it all out there. And whether it is comedy or music or movies or your cupcake shop, it's all of who you are. And when it gets rejected, which it will, it has to, if you're going to be successful, it's part of the journey. The ability to be kind to yourself and say, all right, like you say, that didn't quite work. Let me see what else I've got. What's the next thing? And it is a resistance to being uncomfortable, unhappy, in pain that stops entrepreneurs. And frankly, I see it as an epidemic in the world, this I don't want to feel bad about anything. So if you say something makes me feel bad, it's your fault. It's like, no, you can adjust your triggers. You can be more resilient to the things that other people say. You can let a comedian say and do things that doesn't affect you in any way, but let it be something that offends your sensibility. Because you know what? In the end, you're going to think something different. And thinking different things is the heart of every great success for any entrepreneur. And the thing with comedy in particular is that I think it's the hardest part of the entertainment industry to crack, because look, people can crank out these dramas that end up on the Hallmark Channel, or horror movies or science fiction. But if a Freddy Krueger movie isn't all that scary, people will still go see it. But if a comedy movie isn't funny, you're screwed. And so, like, kind of getting back to your specialty, how did you get into comedy and how did you master it?
It's a great question. First of all, I've never mastered anything.
I would push back on that, but please continue.
Yeah. So cracking comedy is, in a way, it's trial and error. So I started as a stand-up comedian long ago, and I wasn't making the traction I thought I could. I knew I would make money and be successful, but I didn't think instinctually that I had the gifts that people like Pryor or Louie Anderson had. And you talk about cracking comedy, and when you saw those people in the 80s go, like Louie going on the Tonight Show, and he just gets introduced and there's the applause, and he just says one thing to start. He just said, listen, I don't have much time. I'm in between meals. It's like 5 seconds and it's like you're in. And I think in a comedy, you have to find your lane. And I don't know if I necessarily had my lane to start off. Just to give you an example, I just saw this comedian, Eugenia Kuzmina, who's a model. And just right away, she goes on stage. Hi, my name's Eugenia. I'm a model. And then she pauses and just says, I am so hungry. And it's just, exactly who she is. And for me, when I was doing comedy, I hadn't found my lane, and I realized I wasn't in control. And there's one thing about life that, whether we all want to admit it or not, from the moment we're born with no control, and we're fighting until we die to have the most control possible. Even at the beginning of this podcast, Dan said, hey, I'd like to tell you what's going to be happening here. And I said, Dan, I like it when I just don't know anything. And he's just paused, and he got this look on his face, and he said, okay, we'll do it your way. And so that was his way of saying, God, I want to be in control of my own podcast, but this guy wants to be in control. Anyway, and so control is at the top of the umbrella. Yeah. When it comes to happiness, is all about controlling the variables, who you love, where you work, how much money you make, whatever it is. And so in comedy, I wasn't in control, so I wasn't mastering it. So then I decided to try to master the other side of the business and try to create opportunities for people who I thought were extraordinary comedians and probably live my life vicariously through their successes. I found that if you had comedians who had great ideas and had many cylinders in their engine that they could do, from radio to TV to film to specials to books, then you had a lot of variables you can work with. And so if one failed, you just went with another. And when you look at certain comedians out there, they're incredible. Like Bill Maher, he does his lane.
Yes. It's
politics, and it's far to that side. And it's like, people love him for what he does, and people don't like him for what he does.
Right.
But he does it. And then there's people who are more offensive, and they go through. I don't think I had the mental makeup for that, but I did have the mental makeup for being like a chameleon with artists, where I saw whatever their talents were, and I could figure out what my talents were and mix it together so that they could be prepared to get Saturday Night Live. And I was able to have like 4 or 5 or 6 cast members on Saturday Night Live, or be able to produce a movie. And once you have somebody who can create and write, then you can be an executive producer on shows, a producer on movies. And then you are able to do more things and learn about more things in the business. I remember doing a podcast with a friend of mine, Jordan Harbinger. And I love, he has a word for it that's his own unique word. It's called skill stacking. Whatever you're doing, it's really important to master certain skills that might not be necessarily your lane, but if you master all those skills, they all come together and you become a really powerful entity. And so comedy, I didn't master, but I think behind the scenes mastered.
And I'm going to tell you, Barry, why I think you were so good at helping comedians, because you have a resilience. It's for everything that we've talked about so far has been about your resilience to keep going. Like right from the Cirque story, right? It's just like, all right, I'll try that. Like what's the worst that can happen? And I would say myself, when I was in comedy, just for half a second, and a lot of artists, it's really hard to be resilient, and you lend them part of your resilience. You make me think about like when David Letterman lost The Tonight Show, when it was clear like it was a solid no, he was devastated. And his manager came to his office with a bottle of champagne, opened it up and said, "This is the greatest day of your life." And he said, "We are going to shop you around to everybody and get you the sweetest deal of your life." Right? So he lended Letterman his resilience. And I think that's why artists are attracted to you, because it's like, we can do this. We can pivot. We can try this. We can make this happen. It's a unique skill.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And I think that the story you just told is an amazing story, but there's even more things that relate to entrepreneurialism that you don't realize. Is that Jay Leno, who was always one of the nicest, kindest, generous people to other comedians you could ever meet. Mm-hmm. But he wanted that job so badly that he hid in an electrical closet in a conference room. Now, Letterman in a million years would never think that his buddy, who'd been on the Letterman show more times than anybody else, his friend, his peer, would hide in an electrical case and get all the inside information and then start calling the president of Network, like Warren Littlefield, who I've also interviewed. And so it was hurtful. And there's things in business you have to understand. You have to pretend that there's a lot of snipers in the trees.
Yeah.
And they're up there trying to pick you off. It's like the Hunger Games. Do you think if you're a stand-up comedian and you're in a comedy club and Steven Spielberg is in the audience and he's looking for one person for this role in his movie, do you think any one of those 10 comedians wants you to get it? No, they want themselves to get it. If we're all drowning in the ocean, who are they going to save? Themselves. And I always equate it to like, you almost have to be like a shark, but I'm not talking about the shark that we all equate to. The shark goes after this beautiful plump seal, and it's like, I missed it. They're not sitting on the bottom of the ocean going, oh man, I can't believe I missed the seal. Right. They have no attachment. And when you're an artist and you have bad things happen, or you're an entrepreneur and your restaurant closes down, it's like, oh my God, this is awful. Yeah. There's another path. Yes. And one of the things that really, you were so profound in your opening. It was so wonderful. But what I will tell your audience is somewhere in a cave in prehistoric times, written in hieroglyphics, is what I say and what Dan says in a different way. Mm-hmm. But the thing is that the greatest inventions, the greatest visions, the greatest ideas in terms of the entrepreneurial spirit in the world, they're all in one place, in the cemetery, because people just don't take the time to act on them, and they die and they go to the grave with them. And I don't want to be that guy who kicks the bucket and has something that I haven't figured out how to do or I want to do. I want to be able to at least try what I want to try, and I do a ton of different things. And a lot of people look at me like I'm some rogue guy because I do a podcast and I'm a manager and I do the Blueprint for Success program, and I'm a manager and I do consulting, and I'm a manager and I do TV producing, and I'm a manager, I do film producing. And it's people look at it, it's like, why can't you just do one thing? I don't want to do one thing. I want to work on a lot of things that help people and inspire people. But I also want the people I'm working with to know that they're getting me and they're happy with what they're getting and that I exceed their expectations.
And you have to do that in every business. You have to exceed expectations, because getting back to your mission statement, you have to surprise and delight people. And if you're not doing that, then you're not an entrepreneur. You're only repackaging something that somebody else has done. And, just like with you, you've done all these things, and yet you're also promoting the Blueprint for Success. And I love what you said about that, because you say it's a blueprint for success in the comedy business, right? Because too many entrepreneurs, comedians, whatever, they treat what they do like a hobby. Oh, I love doing this thing, but it's a business and it has to be structured like a business. So without giving away the secret sauce, can you talk about the Blueprint for Success?
Yeah, I'll tell you the secret sauce.
Oh, great.
And so I've always been an instinct person, almost like part manager, part producer, part clairvoyant. I just have instincts for things, and I don't know why I have them. I have no fucking idea why it happens or how it happens. All I know is that it happens. Mm-hmm. And there's something instinctually that when I represented Chappelle, Burr, Wanda Sykes, Tracy Morgan, Daryl Hammond, these people, shit happened. And it happened obviously because they're extraordinarily talented. But it also happened because there has to be some chemistry between mixing two solutions together that made things right. I remember I got a Federal Express letter. I've been representing Chappelle for 8 or 9 years.
Wow.
Loved the guy then, love the guy now.
Yeah.
$400 million movies in a row, 7 television deals in 8 years. And then one day I just get a FedEx letter. I open up the letter. It's from a lawyer that he hired, and he fired me. I had no idea. I was stunned. And so I remember thinking to myself, well, I can do 2 things here. I can get a bottle of something and circle around on the floor like Curly Joe used to do in the studio. Or I can take action, and it was something else. And I remember somebody told me there was a comedian at Caroline's in New York coming down from Boston, and to go see them.
Yeah.
And that person was Dane Cook.
Wow.
And worked with Dane Cook when he was in a studio apartment, and he changed the face of the world. He taught me to work hard on social media with him. He became the first social media star in the entertainment business and in comedy in general, where he could press a button and go from doing comedy clubs to selling out 2 shows at Madison Square Garden and Boston Garden. And so fate takes you to these places, and that's the way the world works. And the minute you understand that, and the minute you realize that that's the way it is and embrace it, that's when you're going to soar. But the moment where you're sitting around going, woe is me, you're done. You're done because somebody's passing you. Right. They're all passing you. Right.
So well said, Barry. It's so true. If you pause for a moment in that negative reflection, someone's going to just zoom right by you. And look, I am where I am today because I had a marketing company. And in that marketing company, I hired somebody who turned out to be a pathological liar. And we made all these promises to all these clients, and none of it was true. And so I lost $70,000, right? I was dead broke and in debt. And I had to ask myself, what do I want? Do I want to try to put Humpty Dumpty back together again with this marketing company? I was like, I hate marketing. I'm only good at it. And somebody said, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to be a business coach. It's what I love doing. It's what I've been successful at in one form or another for a decade. And she's like, fine, go be a business coach. I'm like, okay, my first question is like, who's going to hire a business coach who just failed at business? And she said, it doesn't matter. If you decide and stay with it, you'll get there. And literally, Barry, 8 months later, almost to the day, I walked out on stage in Dallas, Texas, in front of 1,500 people being paid $10,000 for my first speaking gig, right? And I never looked back. And my life is so much better. Like, I thank God I hired that guy. And probably subconsciously, I hired him because I wanted to get out of marketing. And so somewhere in the back of my mind, it's like, oh, if I hire this guy, my marketing company will fail and I'll get out of this. And so I look at everything that happens as a function of something that in some way I help create. And I think I hear you saying that too. Maybe you needed Chappelle out of your life to bring someone new in to take you to a new realm.
It's so true. That's the way it works. And I know it doesn't make any sense. It's like,
it doesn't.
In business, when you work a while, you want less drama, you want less stress, and you want more overall great people to work with. There's like a no asshole policy as you get farther in business and farther in your personal life. You're like, I'd rather be alone. I'd rather be homeless than deal with that. But I think the most important thing to realize is that it's amazing what can happen. Like Dan says, when you just put yourself out there, it's just the greatest thing to know that you're out there. And it's like, holy shit, I'm out there.
Yeah.
And I always say to young people who work with me who are going out in the workplace and they're all worried, they're putting their resume together. Barry, I don't know what's going to happen. What happens? But I said, if you have charisma and any semblance of a personality, what are the chances you're going to go on 20 job interviews and go 0 for 20? Is that possible? But let's pretend you do. Then you go to another 20. Are you going to go 0 for 20? Well, let's pretend you do. Then there's just another 20. It's like if you're a hotel manager, okay? And you're working at, let's say, the Westin, and you get fired. It's like, who the fuck cares? Let's go across the street to the Four Seasons and apply there. It's like there's always some place to go and to put yourself out there. There's people out there everywhere that need what's in your mind. And that's valuable. And it's just incremental, just one successful thing at a time, just one building block at a time. And it's amazing how quickly the house gets built.
Yes. And when you talk about the kids saying, oh, what if I don't get a job? And you're saying, you go on 20 interviews and another 20. Like for you, you have that resilience. And this is this theme that keeps reoccurring in this conversation, Barry, is that you keep talking about, keep trying, keep putting yourself out there. And the thing that you have that I think is your superpower is this detachment from the outcome is about me. Right. And so many people, like if you tell them you go on 20 interviews, you're like, oh, I can't handle that. But like 20 rejections and then 20 more rejections. It's like, it doesn't mean anything. They're not rejecting you.
Even if they are rejecting you.
Yeah.
Even if you walk in the interview and you pee in the corner and bite your toenails and fart as you walk out.
Right.
It's over. That's not videotaped and sent to the world. It's like, It's over. And now, okay, let's not bite our toenails and pee in the corner this next one. Let's do that well. And let's
adjust and move forward.
And let's do a good interview. It's like in acting, Beth Bears, Two Broke Girls. I remember when she came to the audition, I remember Whitney Cummings saying, there's this girl that came in. She has nothing on her resume. Yeah. She's gone on 100 auditions this year. Hasn't booked anything, but she's great. We're going to bring her back. Brought her back again and again. And finally, she tested against people who'd done hundreds of television series. And the president of the network at the time, Les Moonves, said, listen, I know she has no experience. I know I'm spending millions of dollars for the show, but there's something about her that's different and special, and we're going to hire her. Same as like he did with James Corden. He took a guy who never done anything really in the States and bet on him. Same with NBC, took Conan out of the writer's room of Saturday Night Live and gave him a shot. And so there's risks that people take all over that change the world. And you can't keep going with the same thing all the time. Yeah, it's safe to go with the same thing all the time, but sometimes it changes the world when you don't.
And that's right back to your mission statement. Live performance that entertains, inspires, and changes the world. And I think I've gotten an answer to that question. And I think a great place to wrap this up. The only last question is, well, first statement, if you want to get connected with Barry Katz and you want to check out his comedy blueprint, go to Barry Katz, BaryKatz, one word, .com. And there is a wealth of information on that website. And so what is next for Barry Katz and BKE Production?
Well, what's next is what's next for all of us, the unknown. And that's the most exciting thing that we're blessed with in life. No matter how much we plan, no matter how much we work on the execution, there's still the unknown. You never know what's going to happen, how it's going to happen, who you're going to meet, and where it's going to take you. Are you going to meet your soulmate there? Are you going to meet a person you partner up with? Are you going to change lives? Are you going to fail? Is that going to bring you to the next thing? What's going to happen? And that's the magical part about what we're blessed with in life. A lot of people don't think it's magical because people want to know what the future holds. They want to know the good things that are going to happen or the bad things. But I think, to me, if you ask that question, it's the unknown. I look so forward to the unknown because it's one of the most magical things to experience things that you have no idea what's going to happen, and then how you're going to handle it when it happens, and how that's going to lead you to the next thing. And hopefully, throughout all my days on this planet, I'm able to help other people and inspire people to do great things.
It's so profound and touching. And Barry, thank you for being so generous with your time today. I mean, everything that you shared about moving forward through struggle, through bone-crushing defeat, through keeping your mind open to taking risks, to stepping into the unknown, to being resilient. It's priceless information for my audience. And for most of us, it would be impossible to gain access to someone like you. So having you here is a rare treat for everybody listening. So thank you for being on For Badass Entrepreneurs Only.
Well, thank you, Dan. I'm very grateful to you and grateful for your audience to making it this far without slipping into a coma.
Hardly. And before we wrap up, I want to remind you to get a free copy of my book, Jumping the Gap, Kill Your Story and Take Action. Just text the word GAP, G-A-P, to 213-409-8366. It will help you take bold new action on your entrepreneurial journey. Text the word GAP, G-A-P, to 213-409-8366. And I also want to thank you. Yeah, you. The you who is listening to this show right now. Thank you for opening your mind and stepping into the world of infinite possibilities. My guests, all of them, breathe the same air you do. There's nothing stopping you from taking bold action, opening up your world, challenging yourself to step up and live your life unlimited. I'm Coach Dan Gordon. Thanks for listening. Now get out there and show the world the next greatest version of you. Hey, if you have some thoughts about the show you'd like to share with us, or if you think you've got what it takes to be a guest, send me a text at 213-409-8366. Let me know what you think, or let me know why you think you'd be a great guest for this show. Thanks again for listening. I hope you're inspired to unleash your badass self on the world.